Good morning. We're at a really cool place. It is 20 after 7 in the morning, Halloween day, October 31st. Probably about 12 degrees here. So about 20 degrees below freezing on this fine October morning. The last day in October. I am headed towards Laramie, and I am wanting to go up over Medicine Bow Forest and the Snowy Range today and probably film both of them. Oh yeah, let's try that. Let's try that. It's really, I'm getting used to the cold again, so I've got to jack around with my heater settings and get them right. If I don't get it right, it gets immediately cold in here, you know. We're in winter. But we were just looking at Table Mountain, and now we're going around Table Mountain. That big imposing mountain, flat top mountain is. Did I say Table Mountain? It's actually called Battle Mountain. I may have said Table Mountain. Big bump. I don't know why I'm warning you. Maybe I'm warning me. I'll get it figured out. Get the right, nice combination of heat. Of course, if I immediately say it feels good, it's probably too hot. Because immediately I felt the heat. So now I don't have four-wheel drive, and I don't have my snow tires on this car. In fact, I don't like the tires that I have on this car. I will be happy to get rid of them. Whether the tires are good or not, I've had a bad experience with them. They don't last. I mean, I bought these. I've actually bought, I think six of these tires this year, and I put these tires on, and I think it was April or May, and it's October, and these tires they just wear way too quickly for this car. This car's got a bit of an alignment issue that I'm slowly getting worked out, but it's destroying the tires. However, some tires are more resistant than others. The Firestones that I like to run in the winter are, in my opinion, much better tires. And they resist a bad alignment much better. So, for what it's worth, and we are coming up to what was the most beautiful spot, in my opinion, on this entire road. It's just over that hill on the horizon. Well, on the near horizon, not up on top, under the sky. You know what I mean, right? So I've been in a Twitter fight, or I heard it on the X fight, with a climate change moron. Mike Merrifield, I think was the guy's name. And he might be a great guy. He might be, I don't know, in his picture, he's got he looks like a surgeon or some sort of medical walk of some kind. So I'm assuming he is not stupid, but I have found that climate change is an ideology. It's a belief. And that's one of the most clever things I think that the global warming hoaxers have done. But I think they're pure evil, so I think they know what levers to pull, you know, they know what buttons to push on people. But Tony Heller made a post about it, the global warming or the cooling in 1980, and I made a post saying it's funny how they just flipped almost overnight, you know, one from the other, which is what they did. And so I have one detractor showing an article saying, oh, well, look, they're talking about the warming here, which doesn't negate what I said. They flipped overnight. Not all of them flipped in unison at that point. So anyway, this guy, Mike Merrifield, said basically the same thing. He put an article out showing, you know, it's just their typical first thing to do. And I quickly disagreed with it. That was my first post. Oh, well, no, I think my first, I can't really remember. I think I made 3 replies back to the guy. But in essence, or the essence of what I told him, or what I had written on, you know, I heard it on the X, was, I'm saying that because of a ZZ Top song. I heard it on the X. I think it's just X, but the chorus is, I heard it on the X. Which used to be a really cool radio station out of Juarez, Mexico, called X Rock 80. I picked it up occasionally when I was a kid. I could catch it in Oklahoma. Occasionally we get skip that would, you know, or we get atmospheric conditions that were favorable. It's very cool. Anyway, he made a post, I posted, and he posted something else, and it was an article showing that basically that someone was contradicting, saying cooling or warming or something, and I said, thank you for making my point. You know, these people were flip-flopping at this point in 1981 or whatever it was. I don't remember when it was exactly, but I remember them doing it. I was keenly interested in all of that stuff when I was a kid. I didn't believe the climate hoaxers, though. It didn't take long for me. Like when I was a really little kid, I was pretty smart, and it didn't take me long. Maybe watching a couple news stories about climate change before I realized it was bullshit. And I was a little kid, you know, little kid. And I knew that was bullshit. Hell, I was so young, I couldn't even say, I probably didn't even know the word bullshit. I didn't have a very big vocabulary at the time of cuss words, as being, you know, really tiny. You know, little baby. Anyway, so he got on and was mad at me and said, well, if you're just in your echo chamber, and I said, well, hey, my echo chamber is simply the published history. That's my echo chamber. And he had said bye on his post, like goodbye. Like, I'm not talking to you anymore. And so I said, well, I can imagine. I mean, I'm paraphrasing my own words. I said, I can imagine you don't feel comfortable here because I'm asking questions, what science is actually meant to do. Ask questions, not make data up to fit your premise, which is what the global hoaxers have done. Now, the people that did that may not have, I don't think that they were the criminals of today, but they were criminals back then changing the data to fit their premise. But I think that the criminal enterprise has nicely fleshed out. There goes a doe. Yeah, there's still some people up here. So the criminal enterprise of climate change has flushed out, and now the globalists are involved. Several companies are involved, and they're all buying the lie. And the real echo chamber that this guy's talking about is the climate change bullshit. All of these people trading stories about the climate, how hot it is. I'd like you to notice, Mike Merrifield, if you're watching my video, which you probably aren't. Maybe someone could point it out to him. All the snow that's on the side of the road. We're up at about 8,500 feet right now, 8,000 feet. This came in last week. It is still here. There's going to be snow on the road when we get up higher. It's going to be slick. I don't think I'll need my four-wheel drive to get around it. But their premise is this was the hottest year ever. And not only that, they're saying, and the falls are later and later. And they're just going on and on about stupid bullshit. What I've seen, what I have videoed in the last year, I don't know if I caught it last year, but I certainly saw it. I've seen the snowfields in the Colorado mountains. I've seen the snowfields in the Wyoming mountains. The preannual. I mean, they're here. They're here more. They've been here for a few years now. This global heating they're talking about is apparently creating larger snowfields in the mountains of Colorado and Wyoming. That I've seen with my own eyes. In the summer, all summer long, and in late summer and in fall. I've seen the snowfields bigger this year than they were last year. I saw them on the flat tops for about 3 or 4 years now. So, when these people trade their stories, swap stories about the climate, the boiling climate, and that ridiculous fucktard UN, whatever it is, the attorney, what is he? The district attorney for the UN, some sawed-off little punk who is a complete communist. Yeah, I think I stand by that statement. The sawed-off little punk who is a complete communist. Sounds about right. His latest was he was posing in front of the Himalayas, and he was talking about, the snow slide, the mountain slides, rock slides, and this whatever. He was talking about natural occurrences that go on in the mountains and acting like it was some horrible thing, which is typical for these people. What's not typical, especially lately, is the amount of snow that is staying year-round in the Colorado Rockies. We're entering another cooling period. No, I'm not jumping on we're going to end up in ice ball Earth in anytime soon. It's just a cycle. It's cyclical in nature. We're in a bit of a colder spot right now, you know. No, anyway. Anyway, so a little bit of a Twitter fight. But I know my subject. Tony Heller knows his subject. I watched Tony Heller, and I know that what he's talking about is correct because I saw it happen. I noted it while it happened. I thought it was a really cool concept, climate change, when I was a little kid. Then when I realized it was a big hoax, it was fun to follow. It was fun to watch the people talk about the ridiculous things that they were going to do. And I did point out to another person that at one point in time, the quote unquote scientists of the time were talking about taking really fine carbon dust, loading it up into an airplane and scattering it, you know, spreading it with an airplane over these snow fields that were going to be encroaching on everything. And then we're going to save the planet. By the way, a fossil fueled machine spreading fossil fuels. I really like that concept of it. So anyway, and yeah, I got frog in my throat today because I've got an infection going on in my eye that I fixed. But the treatment is making my throat froggy. Damn it. So anyway. So we're looking at the Sierra Madre up here. I don't think I brought any water with me. Leave it? No, I don't think so. Don't look like it. I could use a sip of water. I'll have coffee here in a little while, but I guess I'm just going to have to put up a froggy throat for a little bit. These mountains that we're in are the Sierra Madres. They're the western extent of the Medicine Bow Mountains, or maybe I should say the southwestern extent of the Medicine Bow Mountains. Do that. Too much. I'm still fiddling with the heat in this car. Yeah, we're getting into the snow on the road, so we're gonna have to watch it. I don't have four-wheel drive. I'll have to drive slowly. It looks to me like they've actually sanded the road up here. Yeah, that's weird. I didn't realize they actually maintain this road. They're going to close this road in the next few days. As far as I know, this is the last week it's going to be open. I'll be watching just in case it stays open longer. But I think it's going to get closed. I think they close it the 4th, typically. But they do say it depends on the weather. So maybe sometimes it's sooner, maybe sometimes it's a little bit later. But we're starting to get up into we're probably in about the 9,000, 9,500 foot elevation. we'll be climbing. We get past this Lost Creek campground, which I think is just right up there. We'll climb up another few hundred feet. Anyway, yeah, so I had a Twitter fight. Well, a Twitter argument. But like I say, I know my story. I also know how to deal with these climate hoaxes. I've figured it out. I don't get down into the weeds very often, if at all. Other people are a lot better at that than me. And really getting down in the weeds, the way that the argument has been juxtaposed on reality, if you get down into the weeds of it, you end up sounding like you have bought the premise of global warming. Not in every case, but in a lot of cases. And I don't think that makes a lot of sense. Now, I do think CO2 is actually a good gas to have in the atmosphere. I think it is certainly, at the very least, fertilizer for plants. Oh yeah, we got a lot of, they did Sad Israel pretty good. It's dusty. So, but the issue is, if someone says, oh, CO2 is killing the atmosphere, but you say, well, no, CO2 is good for gas. You're not really telling, or you're saying CO2 is a good gas, not a bad gas. It has benefits. In a way, you're tacitly agreeing that there's more CO2, that's a bad thing, but that there's a good point to it, right? I'm not entirely clear. I'm not pointing this out entirely clearly, but it gives, you're not agreeing that CO2 is creating climate change, right? That's the bullshit. But in defending CO2, it sounds like you're defending CO2 like it's a good thing we should have more of, which we probably should. But that's not the point. That's not even the argument. The argument is, does CO2 cause man-made global warming? The answer to that question is no. The science says no. There is absolutely no evidence of that anywhere. But there's a lot of anecdotal bullshit that goes on in the echo chamber that this Mike Merrifield guy said I was actually in. And I'm really not in an echo chamber. I am literally a voice in a wilderness, like other people are about this. However, we are the majority of the people that, we understand what's going on. The majority of this world is not buying climate change. So that's really important to know. A little bit of ice on the road. A little bit of that go a long way. But we are getting near the top here. So I stay out of the weeds. I will occasionally argue a little point here or there, but I really try to stay just with the big principles. And to me, the most important thing about this whole issue is that the data, the weather data that's been collected, two things. Number one, the weather data that's been collected absolutely does not show global warming. Doesn't show it. There's not a correlation between temperature and CO2. There are correlations between temperature and sunspots, though. But see, the global warmists don't want you to think about that. They don't want you to think that the sun has anything to do with global warming. They don't want you to think there isn't global warming. Or a few years ago, it was global cooling, you know. So when they argue, they like to argue little specifics. They use falsified data that they justify. I think the last justification I heard about the reason they changed their data was because the old timers didn't know how to take temperature measurements properly. And I'm thinking to myself, now, what old timers are those? Are those the old timers that actually did math in their heads and not on a computer? Because I'll bet you that most math whizzes nowadays wouldn't hold a candle to a regular high school graduate of 1920, just as an example. Because in 1920, you had to know this stuff. In 2023, you could just use a calculator, you know? You can use a software program. So these are the people that the climate hoaxers are saying are stupid. They are so stupid, they couldn't even take measurements. It was a bunch of hicks. They don't understand how smart people were 100 years ago. They have no concept. If they think that about people that lived 100 years ago, they are completely mistaken. They're completely out of the loop of reality. Because those people invented the modern world. They invented it in their heads. They didn't use a computer. We are so spoiled by the hard work those people did. I understand it, and a lot of people understand it, but the climate hoaxers, maybe they absolutely just don't even get it. By the way, going by a really cool little mine, just passed it. I kind of thought the year was late. I still would I have the desire to get out and look for rocks, but as you can see, this coating of snow, or as the global hoaxers would call it, ash, is going to preclude me from looking for rocks. Dang it. So I think we're up about 10,000, just like 10,100 or something like that feet up here. This is a continental divide that we're coming up to. And for me personally, more importantly, well, not that I even need to go, but there's a bathroom here and I will go ahead and use it. So when I argue climate change, I try to just keep with the bigger picture, you know. I don't have any desire to get down into the weeds and argue minutia that makes no sense. And that basically just justifies what the climate, you know, what the hoaxers, it just puts me in their camp. And I don't need to be in their camp because I understand where the data is coming from. I understand the falsified data that they like to quote. And I won't lower myself to quote that. I won't do that. So anyway, because I don't have four-wheel drive. Get up over here. probably want to turn right here. This is my preferred spot. You know, this guy follows me. Yeah, I'll kick his ass. I'll kick his ass, sea bass. When this opened up this spring, when they opened the road, you couldn't get, if I recall right, yeah, you could barely get around this. There was a huge drift where I'm at right now. I'm just getting kind of lined up here. There we go. All right, y'all. I'll be back. Let the camera run. Yeah, I can do that. It is cold out there. I was just thinking about the way this car is handling in this snow. Not good. I mean, it's handling like a typical two-wheel drive with reasonable tires on it, which is not good. It's not what I'm used to. And now this is pretty frigid snow. This isn't the slickest snow, so that's helpful. It's probably, it might be 0 up here. It's probably a little warmer than that, but it could be. Actually, they have done the road pretty decent. But I will take my time going down the pass here. Huh. And it's interesting to me to see the people that I'm meeting on, on Twitter, on X, that I'm taking care of this ear situation I've got going on at this moment, and the driving on the sides. It's keeping me driving slow, so that's good. Okay. My sunglasses. Thing coming up. A thing called the sun. I gotta wonder if these people live up here year around, because this road gets shut down a few miles east of here. We're heading east. We're heading towards Encampment. I mean, they could certainly live up here. They just have to bring, you know, they have to have their living situation taken care of, their energy situation taken care of. And by the way, I think that of all the things that piss me off about the climate change bullshit, is that the climate change hoaxers, I mean, if they don't understand what's actually going on, they're just useful idiots. They're stupid. And when I say useful idiot, it's an insult, but it's an insult coined by, you know, one of the creators of modern communism. So Marx, he coined that phrase. I mean, he knows how bad of a thing it is. I guess he's just an evil bastard, was an evil bastard. He coined that phrase. I'm just using it accurately and appropriately. If people don't understand what the climate hoaxers are actually up to, they're useful idiots. They're stupid. They need to educate themselves. It's not to say they're not educatable, but when it comes to this belief, you know, when it comes to belief, disbelief, belief or disbelief, when it comes to belief, you may as well throw all of your doctorates, your masters, your, you know, all your degrees out the window, because they don't mean shit. It comes down to what you believe. I've seen it too many times. I've seen too many otherwise intelligent people have fallen for this shit because of their ideology. It's because of their ideology. It's the way that they've been raised. Mainly the way they've been raised. You can certainly say the same thing about me. I was raised a certain way. Now, I did at one point in my life literally push all of the beliefs that I was taught away. I pushed them all away because I was thinking, you know, I really would rather, I'm glad I was raised the way I was raised, don't get me wrong. But I got to this point where I thought, you know, I would rather work out what I believe right now in my mind and make a decision on everything that's important today, including believing in God, religion, the whole thing. And so I like suspended belief of all of that stuff. I guess it hurt the time I was going to college, so it was an atmosphere that went to ideas that were somewhat foreign to me to begin with. But that's a reasonable thing to say. But I also ran into people in college that were actual real scientists, and they're hard asses. They're hard nosed. It's cool, you know, when you get around somebody who is actually a scientist, who has got enough sense of self to know when to step out of an equation and to say, I'm wrong. And when I say enough sense of self, I don't mean a big sense of self. I mean humility. You know, to have enough humility to be able to say, I'm wrong. That is how science ought to be dealt with, right? But the thing that, I know I keep branching out. I will eventually make the point. You know, a lot of it is I know I've got time to kill, right? I got to cover. So if I can meander around it, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it's another thought that I like to throw in there. Sometimes I forget what I'm talking about, though. It happens probably more often than I would care to admit. But this time that hasn't happened. And the point is, the biggest problem with climate hoaxers is that they, A, believe falsified data, but B, they support the actual evil people that are wanting to take resources away from the majority of the world. That is the thing that really pisses me off about the global warming bullshit, the extinction theory, the just stop oil fucktards. Glue your hand to the street that I live on, my friend. You fucktard morons. Yeah, you glue your hand to the street that I live on, and people are going to be like attracted to that like a magnet. You will never do that again. You'll survive, but you'll never do it again. You might even learn something. No, yeah, I know. A bridge too far, as they say. So they're still digging wood out of here. Of course, they're going to work. They're going to work until the last day, I'm sure, unless we get a really big storm. And we do have a storm coming in the end of the week. Sadly, I know about this. Because I was planning on changing my differential out this week. I can't do it now because I differentially Sydney is this shit. Anyway, yeah, I have a big problem with that. What these people are trying to do is they're trying to take away resources from people. Let me rephrase that. They are trying to kill people. Let me just cut it to the chase, right? They're trying to kill people. How are they doing that? By taking away food supply, fertilizer, buying up farmland, and trying to outlaw the use of fuel, fossil fuels especially. For the most part, that's pretty much what we got, fossil fuels. But we do have renewables. You know, wood is a renewable. They want to get rid of that. They want to get rid of all of that. What is that going to do? If these idiots, if these fucking criminals can get away with their evil plan, and it actually is an evil plan, if they can get away with it, they will kill billions of people. They will starve, they will freeze to death, or they'll die from heat exposure. Or they won't have anything to drink. They'll die because they can't drink anything of thirst. This is what is behind the climate hoax theory. This is all well, there's another thing behind it too. It's the money laundering that politicians do. That's where Al Gore and Obama, that's where that crew of rotten criminals have had a lot of sway. They've worked pretty hard at that. The carbon bullshit, the carbon credits, that's their way of stealing money from the government, from us. Kind of a nice view. We're looking down into the Platte River Valley, looking over the top of Encampment and over the top of Riverside. Yeah, I'm probably going to stop filming down here in Encampment. I'm not going to go over the Snowy Range today. I really don't want to. Deer on the roads, they look pretty happy. They didn't look like they wanted to move. They were just grazing. You'll always have to watch deer, though. Some more deer hanging out. It's kind of funny because there are people up behind me a few miles desperately looking for deer, you know, to bag, to take home and make food out of. And I have nothing against that. But it's just funny that I'm seeing a bunch of deer and they're not. But I'm not hunting. Of course I'll see deer. Things work that way. Anyway, here we are in Encampment, and it's going to be a pretty day today, it looks like. A little bit of snow here. It's about 7,000 feet, I think, Encampment. Maybe even a little bit higher. Yeah, this might be my video for the week. Although I may add some to it if I decide to use it. Maybe I'll. The Union Wireless truck. I could know that guy. Probably don't. An hour or so. Maybe from Rollins. That'd be my guess. There's a pretty cool museum here. I'll probably wander by it later on today. Maybe I'll film that little segment. But we're going through downtown. I would call this the older part of downtown. Right here. Pretty small, tiny little town. And there's some more downtown kind of area here. So anyway, I got to tell you about my Twitter battle. Not much of a battle. It was actually fun. I try not to get real mean. I try to keep my comments reasonably respectable. At the same time, I'll own people if they need to be owned. And that guy, Mike Merrifield, he needed to be owned. He was definitely, well, definitely in the tank for climate change. And quoting all the typical garbage, Nothing new there. But quoting lies, quoting falsified data. Well, I shouldn't say that, but I mean, that is what they do. I'm accusing him of something he didn't actually do. He just used an actual, literal piece of history and mischaracterized it. So there's the difference. Anyway, I guess I'm going to get blasted by the sun for the next half hour, as I'm going to be driving directly into it. So I'm going to save you the hassle right here. And if you're going somewhere, well, it isn't that bad yet. We're going to turn towards the sun. We're getting closer. I'll go through Riverside. Kind of a neat little town. Turn my lights off, I guess. Pretty little camping area down here. And at a great spot, right by the Encampment River. All right, call it good. If you're driving somewhere today, be careful. I'll try to do the same. Take care, and we'll see you later.